Well, I think we're live already. Starting with a bit music, so just to keep some energies and lights up. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening, folks. My name is Raj. I'm from Eshitha Media, and we have Mrs. Mary Kennedy with us, and this is our immigration corner for this month. Welcome, folks. We'll start in a bit. Just give a little more minutes. A couple more minutes and a little more time for the folks to getting in and a little bit settled down. We're doing this event both live stream in YouTube and Facebook of Mary Kennedy's channels, both YouTube and Facebook channels, and as well as another Eshitha foundations also, so they're doing the streaming on their channel as well. So Keshav, can you just, if you can confirm us, if you can see the feed, that would be great. I hope you're able to. And the listeners can tune into Swara Radio app and they can listen to conversations. Absolutely. And if you have any questions, don't worry, you have a WhatsApp or call number in the app. You can just click on it and we'll be attending the call and we'll straightforwardly directly connect with Mary and we can get your immigration questions to be addressed. I think Eshitha Media is also joining live. I'm sure, yeah, so they're able to get the stream. Okay, perfect. So it's already 4:04, couple minutes late. Thank you, Mary, for taking your weekend time to share knowledge and the current updates with the community. Good morning and good evening.
Sure, Raj. Good to connect with you. Good evening, all. So do you want to check with them if the audio quality is good and everything is okay for us to move forward, Raj?
Yeah, I think should be. I'm checking with the team. Okay, give me a second.
Your audio sounds little low for me, probably.
Yeah, so, can you hear me now better?
Yeah, this is better.
Okay, so this is on this. Okay, just give me a second. I can see the live is going. Keshav, can you confirm if you can see the live and audio is coming fine for you?
Yeah. Hi. This is Ravi. Yeah, and yeah, I can see and hear you fine.
Okay. Perfect, Ravi. Perfect.
Cool. Should we wait for other people to join, or I already have a question for Mary? So.
Oh, okay. So you're lucky number then. Before we start, I would like to start with, I would like Mary to start with a quick update first for this month and probably a kind of a disclaimer to start with, and then we'll take the actions from there onwards.
Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah. So again, good evening, everyone. And we are very glad that you're able to join this session. And so this is going to be a very general discussion on the 485 and the visa bulletin. And this is not an attorney-client privilege that we are establishing by this call. So there is no specific situations that can be addressed in the call. And it's going to be a very general discussion, legal discussion that's going to happen for the time period that we are going to talk about this.
Okay, got it.
And then, Raj, you will start with the question, or you want me to go ahead and talk about the visa bulletin and anything else?
So we'll start with the intro first. Ravi, we'll start with Ravi's question, and then we'll go back to the kind of general updates, and we'll take one by one. So before we go further, I just want to let all the community know that whoever is watching in Facebook, YouTube, and are listening in Swara Radio app. So this session is purely, mainly for the visa bulletin updates and the current 485 issues that the folks are dealing with, and the next month's visa prediction. The visa bulletin predictions, and we'll be touching upon some of the EAD kind of concerns. H4 EAD concerns. And probably a few minutes, we might be talking about some of the folks who stuck in India because of the consulate kind of a closure, what kind of an issue, and how do we need to tackle that, the Dropbox and, in-person, consular visits and all. So we'll be taking some of the questions on that. And last but not the least, about the new H-1B cap questions also. Considering June 30th is approaching, so June 30th is approaching. So would there be any second rounds of lottery or, any further questions on new H-1B cap also will take, a few minutes, in the last round. With that said, we'll start the session with the question and answers. First, I would like Raghu. Please, Raghu, let's start with your question. Raghu, are you there?
Oh, he seems to be on mute, right?
Yeah, I think let's get started with the visa bulletin update, Mary.
So the visa bulletin, as expected in the last few months, and the visa updates that has been given by Charlie Oppenheim, and everything that was in a most predictable and aggressive. So it's moving forward very aggressive way. And as we saw that in the July visa bulletin for the EB3, it was a very huge jump that happened, and you all know aware of it. It's with the January 2013, the final action date itself. And then with the EB2, as expected, it was a little slow, but this is what expected. But there were some other additional information. I just want to add it up over here, as we have it with some of the senior attorneys and everyone discussing about it. Like with the last year, what happened with October, when there was a huge falling and everything happened, there was so much of a downgrade. So there was again another prediction now, how far EB3 is going to substantiate the further move, and then it's going to be, because all the EB2s has converted themselves for the downgrades, and the downgrades are as well quickly going up with the premium processing being filed and everything. So either way, nothing to be concerned now, because the visa availability that happened with the pandemic is still available for anyone, and which is a huge, for Indians particularly, where the priority days has been farther, so much of prior years and everything. So it doesn't matter, because with the approval of an 485, it can be either with the EB2 or EB3. So most possibly, that's going to be a huge rush that's going to happen. And then the movements are going to be happening with the EB2 or an EB3. And that too, that can be anticipated even with October 2022 a visa bulletin. Means like, even though it's going to be in October 2021, it's to be released, but the visa bulletin for the year, as the year for USCIS starts with October. So we can see a very huge movement towards an EB3 as well as an EB2. That's what it's predicted. And we are also seeing that progress happening now.
Good. I think that is a really great news altogether. But one of the common question that is arising in the community is, standing in the queue for a long time now, things are moving forward. Would there be any anticipated delay in the processing time?
So the processing time, definitely there was a very high question on that. Was like, can USCIS able to capture that visa availability that happened with the pandemic? That's a huge question. But we see, even in some of my few earlier calls, I was addressing about it. So we can see that USCIS as well as cooperating, and then they understand that with these visas not yet captured for this year, definitely it's going to be wasted. So they are working hard towards it, and that is one of the reasons the EADs and the APs are not getting approved, and there is going to be a substantial delay, which was happening in January and February. We saw a lot more of EADs and APs that was getting approved, whereas there was a very slow progress, and people were worried about, even after my biometrics done and everything. Biometrics has nothing to do with the EADs, but still, why is my EADs not approved? But that was one of the reasons USCIS, even though not officially stated, it's said that we want to focus more on the 485 approvals, saving all the time that can be used towards the EADs and APs. So we are seeing it, and there were so many of approvals that came in the last 2 weeks, even for the filings that we did. And so we are really looking at it and looking that USCIS is definitely going to approve all these. And we see that there is very, very minimum number of cases that has been going for the interviews. The reason is the delay and everything to be avoided. And so that is one of the reasons that we are more positive that USCIS will be progressing, and the approvals is when the final action date is current, and all the other criteria, that is the biometrics and that completed and the medical has been submitted. Definitely we are going to see more and more approvals that is going to come in after the July as well.
Okay, got you. So Ravi, are you back?
Yeah. So just like one clarification. So when you say approvals, you're talking about approvals of 485s, not of 765s?
No, I'm not. I'm saying there is a hold on the 485s. I'm sorry, the APs and the 765s. The reason is, which happened in January, but there was a very slow approval that we are seeing unless there was an expedited request that has been made by the applicants for any other reason. So they are approving those kind of an expedited request, understanding and getting the reasoning why they wanted it. Some of them for an emergency reason, if they have to travel to India, they have to get the advance parole and then travel to India or something. On that basis, they are approving. But we are seeing not many approvals of the EADs and the advance paroles. The reason is USCIS is stating that if the final action dates are current, then we would rather approve the 485, putting all the efforts. We are not saying just blindly they are going to approve it based on the merits of the case. They are going to approve it rather than working on the EADs and the advance paroles.
Okay, got it. So I would like to get your opinion, like a general opinion on something. So I was in EB2 and I filed for a downgrade to EB3 in December 2020. And now that like my EB3 final action date has become current, it's 1st Jan 2013 as per the latest bulletin. So
Okay.
should I downgrade? Should I downgrade or should I, upgrade to premium processing?
Okay, so it's already been downgraded. So you're just waiting for the I-140 to make the decision of the I-140. So your question is, do you want to get it upgraded for a premium processing, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I would say definitely do that, as your final action dates are also, and so you said January of 2013, right?
So like my priority date was October 2012 and the current final action.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, so October 2012. So then you're within the final action dates, which is the January 2013. So definitely you have to, upgrade it so that some of the minimum criteria that is needed is like you have to have your I-140 approved, and then the biometric has been completed and the medical has been received. So these all the prior requirements for the USCIS to approve your 485. So one of them lacking cannot be, becomes eligible for you to, for USCIS to approve the 485. So definitely I would advise you to go forward and upgrade it, and it's worth the money that you're going to spend for the upgrade of the premium processing.
Okay, just one more caveat. I was with my previous employer, and he agreed to kind of support me if, I'm no longer working with my previous employer, but he did agree to the downgrade and stuff like that. So is it still okay to go for an upgrade, premium upgrade?
Yeah, so I understand your question now. So there is an ability to pay because you are not on the payroll of the employer onto them and everything. So definitely this is something you have to talk to your attorney about it. It doesn't really, just because upgrading for a premium is not going to avoid that RFE in case of issued or anything, but still I would definitely ask you to talk to an attorney of your filing, whoever did it, or even we can help you out if you have any details of it, or we can connect with your employer on that as well.
Okay, I'll sync up with you, Mary, later.
Sure, definitely.
Okay.
Ravi.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Swara.
Thanks, Ravi. So for all the listeners and for the viewers, I request you to subscribe to Mary's YouTube and Facebook channels, and like the Facebook, so that you will keep keep posted with a lot of updates. So Mary and team are doing a great job in terms of keeping the community updated with a lot of new stuff. I mean, the stuff that are happening in the immigration stuff. So I request all of you to please do like, subscribe, and like and subscribe the Facebook and YouTube channels. Now, I would like to go to the next question. Mr. Manish Jain, he mentioned that he got downgraded from EBG to EB3, and now it's and as per his dates, it's like EB3 final action date is current, though the EAD still has not arrived yet, which is filed on October 29th. Does it make sense to file a priority processing for I-140? I think we covered, but I think he's just asking about his situation with him in terms of the dates. October 29, he filed for EAD, but which is not approved. So his question is, would he be filing the priority processing for his I-140?
Definitely the same goes to him as well. I know it's better to have the I-140 approved as soon as you see that final action dates are current, or if you see that even in the coming months, particularly if you see that your final action dates can be current before September 2021, then in that case, I would definitely ask you to upgrade it for a premium processing. For some of them, say like, for example, if you have a priority date of 2014 EB3 for maybe June of 2014, definitely then I would say just to wait for it. But still, with a lot more of downgrades, the processing time for USCIS for these type of downgrade cases are going to be much different than the other common file, directly filed PERM I-140. So in that case, definitely I would ask you, as your priority date is also getting into the final action dates, you should be going for a premium processing, and it's worth the money for you to do that.
Yes. Hope, Manish, you got the answer. And if you have any further questions on that, feel free to reach Mary directly, or you can drop us a text on us. Next, we are going with next question, Sumit. Sumit, question is, what is the average time of issuance of green card under EB1A category? It seems like his priority date is October 2020.
So the one thing we are just noticing here with the processing time for the 485 is, so average is like going to be 2.5 years. But that was the average that was earlier. The reason is like the visa availability was very slow and the numbers were very scattered. But now we cannot be actually predicting how far the processing time and then to plan yourself onto it. But being on the EB1 category and EB1 being current for whoever has been earlier filed, I would definitely expect this, that if everything has been, the I-140 approved and the medical has been submitted and all those things, whatever the requirements for the 485 biometric has been completed, I would definitely expect this before September 30th, you will be getting your approval of the 485. Just, this is a prediction and you cannot rely on this alone when you're going to talk back to us later on, but I'm very positive that this is what going to be the scenario, actually.
Okay. So I think, Sumit, you got the answer on that. And if you have any further questions, you can definitely reach out us back on this. Now, the next question is from Sai or Satish.
So before that, can we just go on just a quick this one on the expedited request to USCIS on the I-485 decisions, actually?
Yes. Please.
Yeah, okay. So I know some of the requests that has been to our office as well as one is about the premium processing upgrades when they have done the downgrade of the filings. And the second one is about even within the general forum, what we see is it something I can expedite my request for the 485 to be approved when my final action dates are current? So that was a very common question. People are anxious about it. And how do I, request USCIS to do that? So one of the reasons that USCIS has been giving for a few of them who has called USCIS for an expedited request on the 485 is Then they sent an email to the applicant, because this is an 485 is an application, even though filed through an attorney. Then in most of the cases, you are allowed to talk to the USCIS, which will not be the scenario when it is with the I-140 or a H-1B, which is more of an employer based. So when it comes to an 485, so you can directly talk to USCIS because it's an application. So in that case, they would have called USCIS and said that, and I want to expedite my 485, and whatever the reason that has been given or something, then they are receiving an email from the USCIS explaining them what is the reason for them to have the process being expedited. And one of them is the financial constraint. If not, this 485 is approved for. That's a question they're asking. And most of the applicants' question is like, I have an H-1B that's going to be due in August or September. So based on that, I don't want to go for an extension. So can I go and ask USCIS to approve my 485 so that I don't have to go for it? The results is, honestly, I'm not very sure whether that is going to be honored by USCIS. With all the other, they have to overtake you being out of the queue and then process your request for the 485. So with all this said, H-1B, the filing fees and other things are being paid by the employer and not by you in any case, because that's a regulation, that's a rule. So in that case, you cannot say that I come under the financial constraint because my H-1B has to be filed for. So that cannot be a proper reason for you to expedite for 485, unless there are many other reasons where I would assume that your children are aging out, CSPA and all those criteria, even that if the final action dates are current, in that case, they are locked. But if it's very close and then you have a very valid reason, and probably your children are in the college and they are paying a fees of international student fees, which is like 4 times than that of a green card holder or other citizens, it can be a valid reason for them to go and expedite it, saying that already we are in the queue and our final action dates are current. Can it be done? Because it's your responsibility and everything involved in that. But I don't see that as a valid reason for them. But when it comes to an advance parole and an EAD, I do see that they are getting approvals for a reason. They have to go to India, travel for an emergency or the parents visit who are critical, and all those reasons are being acknowledged by USCIS, and we do see the approvals that is coming in.
Good. So the live listeners, if there are any questions specific to 485, please do shoot. I think it's clear. And anything, do you want to add anything about the birth certificates or anything like that, Mary? Any specific
Yeah, we
documentation?
have addressed a few of it in the earlier calls as well, Raj, but again, they should be, particularly for people who are in the planning and who are in the line to be expecting to be filing their 485 in the coming months, because there is going to be definitely a very huge moment that's going to happen with the 2022 visa bulletin. So probably if all these numbers are being utilized properly by USCIS, definitely, that approvals that vacuum will be felt by the subsequent people. And so, to be not to be, just to be conservative, still we are looking at least till 2017, and then USCIS being allowing the data filing, which happened with the last year, so they can get ready with the birth certificate, which is the one criteria that Indian citizens as well, when they file the 485, is always like lacking, because with no name being mentioned on the birth certificates and all those other criteria that is being involved. So definitely we can guide them further on that as well. But birth certificate and proper corporation certificates for people who had been born after 1970, being Indian citizens, they can definitely get their birth certificates from the corporation, or if not, the affidavits can be supported. All these documents are very, very preliminary to get ready for them for the 485 filing, so that they don't have to run around at the time when the data filing is going to be accepted, or their dates are going to be eligible for them to file the 485.
Got you. So I hope all the listeners are taking the note. So though it is not a call of action today, but just get ready with your documents So,
and one more quick note on that, even though anticipating that this is what the progress of the visa bulletin and everything, we are accepting, even though the dates are not current, even our office have started because last year it was, completely so much of, pressurized chaos for us also to be preparing and then doing it. So still not even for people who are not expecting, with a very minimum retainer fee, we are started working on the paperwork, keeping it ready. And so that we are ready to file it as soon as the dates are going to be current, because if you look into it, even a day that matters from the time, because the processing is going to be in huge numbers. So even a quick date of receipt of the documents by filing documents by USCIS matters for your processing time and everything. So it's not only us, anyone, and then don't take a chance and just find a good immigration attorney where they can help you out with that of the filing, and then just keep yourself prepared for it.
Got you. So, want to take the next question, Mary?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Raj.
Yeah. So I think the next question is from Satish Thotam. And his question is basically, he's with currently, his priority date is October 2012 with EB2. And since the EB3 dates are current, he applied EB3 downgraded and his I-140 is currently 2020. So his basically question is, if we get an EAD before, and his kid is turning 21 in October. So his question is, if we get an EAD before my child turns 21, whether can she use EAD for college and job if she's eligible to get a green card, even if 480 is delayed by 1 or 2 years?
Okay, what's the priority date he was talking about?
His priority date is October 2012.
October 2012 for the downgrade of towards the EB3, right? Yes. Actually, yes. Right. So in this case, the final action dates are current, and so even though the child is going to be 21 sooner, but again, based on the CSPA, the final action dates is locked. So even with the further approval of in the green card and everything, the child is protected under the CSPA. So there are other criteria which I will definitely look into it, but assuming that he had passed the 485, but still the I-140 is approved or not is a question. I don't have the answer for it. Did he say that it is approved, the I-140?
I-140 premium, I think they let's say will be approved by July. So it's not yet approved.
Not yet approved. So I definitely will wait for at least the approval of the I-140 so that you have an safer side, being the 485 filed after 180 days and the I-140 as well being approved, which is the underlying petition for the 485 and everything. So in that case, I would safely be able to ask your child to use the EAD. But other criteria is also involved, but we can just definitely go through it in a quick call, maybe the coming weeks after the new H-1B has been filed and everything. So if needed, but I would, for a general note on this, yeah, definitely you can ask your daughter or son to make use of the EAD as well.
Okay, and there is another question from Vijay, is can we submit medicals before the RFE is issued? And how does this impact the processing time?
So that's a very good question. Most of them have it when their final action dates are getting current, which for whatever reason, the medical was not earlier submitted. So this is what we are advising. The medical to be submitted has a validity date of 60 days after being the 485 file for. Oh, okay. So the medical is valid for 60 days and then before USCI is being accepted, and then the validity date is like 2 years. So in that case, the only concern is like if you are going to get an, before you submit an RFE, before you receive an RFE, you're going to submit it, we call it an interfiling. And definitely we are recommending if your final action dates are current and then you're eligible for the approval. So we are asking you to get a medical and do an interfiling and submit the medical, but we don't have an assured answer that USCIS is going to honor that and then not issue an RFE and then just to include it for your filing. but it's worth for you to do that, and also inform the doctor that in case if USCIS is going to come back with an RFE later on, so you don't have to pay for it again. They have to just issue a date, and you can work it out with the doctor. But it is worth for you to get a medical done now and do an intro filing and submit the medical to that of the 485 application.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think Vijay, you got the answer. I think
and there is in the chat, there is a question from Shweta. Do you want to address
yes.
that?
Shweta, you can unmute and you can ask the question, please.
Shweta? Hi, Mary. Hi, Mary. So I'm changing my visa status from H1B to EAD, and I got EAD and advanced payroll from my previous employer. So I'm moving to the new employer on EAD. Can I travel on advanced payroll in August?
So the EAD and the advanced parole is based on your 485 application, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and then the I-140 has been approved?
Mine was filed on EB3 only.
Okay, so there was an approval then. Right.
Yeah.
And what's the priority date, Shweta?
November 2014.
Oh, November 2014. So you have time, and then you don't have your final action date. So okay. So traveling on an advanced parole to out of country and being over there, it shouldn't be much of a problem. Yeah, definitely. You can, you can make use of the advanced parole and travel, go back and come. Even if the final action dates are current, there is other alternative that is going to be as long as you have a valid advanced parole. So I would say yes to it.
Okay, thank you.
You're on mute, Raj.
Sorry. Yeah, I think there is another question from another question on date of birth certificates from Srinivasan Shanmugam. His question is, should we get a birth certificate if the spouse is born after 1980? So it's basically 1989. So is it non-availability certificate or affidavit is sufficient enough?
So how sooner you're able to get it to substantiate it matters now. So if you have a non-availability certificate, that's right. The question is right. Because prior to 1970, it's allowed with a non-availability. But again, after in 1989, unless they have a specific reason why they couldn't get the birth certificate from the corporation, or is it the time factor or whatever it is, then we can say that non-availability as well is okay. And then we can ask them to get 2 affidavits in support of it. Even other supporting documents, some of them, they're very old, 10 standard certificates or other PUC, which is older than 20 years. It's considered as a secondary document, which has the same validity as that of the original document. So all those documents can be submitted, but again, it's better for you, if at all the corporation can issue a certificate, birth certificate, that will be the better choice over here.
Okay. Yeah, I hope Srinivasan Shanmugam. Okay, I think he got the RFE and have sent the docs. I think he got the RFE and have sent these documents to respond back into the RFE. Okay. Srinivasan, you can ping or you can call us on the number too if you want us to elaborate more your situation. But I think Mary answered your question. Okay, so now as we are talking about, as from Shweta, as we are talking about some of the travel scenarios, I was going through some of the, my friends and few known circle. They're on EB2. I mean, they're because of the family situations and COVID pandemic, right? So some of my known friends have traveled to India, and they kind of struck because of the non-availability of flights. I mean, because they couldn't get the stamping and come back now. So actually, their priority date was, they are in the final action. Their final action date is pretty much closer, but they have not received the EAT or no advance payroll yet. So if the travel is getting delayed, what is the kind of subsequent actions that they can take?
That's a very good question, Raj. The reason is with the travel ban, there are some exception that is allowed, which most of the consulates now because of the numbers of the COVID might also be a stronger reason in India that's getting a lower numbers and everything. So we see that there are many more, we just, the submission of the national interest exemption criteria that is getting honored by the embassies. So this question in particular, the final action dates are not yet current, but again, I assume they have traveled based on the advance parole. So that way they are going to be, that way they are really going to be safer, even if the final action dates are current and the USCIS is going to be approved, because without an advance parole, when the final action dates are current, they should not have stepped out of country. That's a very, very critical scenario, that is abandonment of the 485 and other stuff. But still, assuming they have a valid advance parole, they can travel back. Actually, they are exempted from the travel ban if they have a valid advance parole. But if you're particular about H1Bs where they do not have a visa stamping, and then they are looking forward to come over here, or they are anticipating that their data filing or the final action dates will move on in October 2022, and then in that case they have to be present to file the 485. Then in that case, that's a very different scenario. In that case, definitely they can be very honest about the reason, that they are going to say to the consulates that they do have a valid reason they are anticipating, which is also with aggressive progression that can be there. And then so they have to be in the country to file the 485 and make use of the other criteria that comes up with the filing of the 485. Even though there is an eligibility that can happen with the consulate, but the consulate process is very, very delayed, and they have to file for the 824 and other criteria. Whereas when they are here in the 485 can be filed, that makes them eligible for the EAD and the advance parole, and then they can wait for it to get processed. So depending on what criteria they are in and what visa, non-immigrant, or whatever the eligibility they are in, I would say do their best to go for it and file for, just to submit a national interest exemption and try it out and explain to them that honestly, this is the scenario they are in, and they can try to get an exemption.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so with respect to the advance payroll, if they travel for any reasons, would they be getting any specific duration? I mean, is it valid, or is it valid for some? Considering the critical situations, is it only valid for a month?
No, the advance parole has a prior validity that is being given. So it was approved only for a year, actually. So they have to make sure the validity is still there. Before that time period, they have to travel back to US.
Okay, got it.
So there is no extension or that can be done out of country for the advance parole. So they have to be in US to do that. So definitely prior to the validity date, they have to enter the country.
Okay, got it. So there are few more topics. So before we go into that, so maybe I would like to quickly correct upon the H4 EADs topics, and then we'll come back on this. Is it okay, Mary?
Yeah, I'm fine, Raj. Whatever, the audience and everyone is like, as long as it's helpful, I'm totally fine with whatever, we can go with.
Yeah, so with respect to the H4 EAD, I think, so now with the latest updates, there is no need for any fingerprints, right? So, and the anticipation is that would reduce a lot of waiting time and process the H4 extensions and EADs in a quick turnaround time. What is the current average H4 extension and EAD process time? What is the current average holding time now? And with the current ratings, and let's say if there are any, if there are any applicants that are filing for an H4 EAD, what could be the average time that they need to wait on?
So the average timeline, even after the biometric has been removed on May 17th, actually it's not improved very substantially as expected. The reason is there was a lot more of pending because of the biometric. And when the COVID happened, there was a complete shutdown because the biometric has to happen with the in person. There was no biometric that happened from March 2020 till almost like till I think when they started, it was in November or December of 2020. So there was a very huge substantial delay with the biometrics. So what we are seeing now is an RFEs, most of them, the reason is at the time of filing the H4 and the H4 EAD, it was like 1.5 years before, and they were submitted with the H1's pay stubs, which was a very old one. And they want to get it clarified. Still the H1B principle is maintaining the status. So we see a lot more of H4 and H4 EADs for the recent pay stubs and additional documents related to that. So that is again delaying the process. So until USCIS clears up all those pending H4s and the H4 EADs, I don't think we can expect a very further quick movement towards it, but definitely this is going to help. And earlier, as you all know, like, when we do the premium processing, even though there is no H4 fees or anything mandatory, that USCIS has to process the H4s along with the H1B premium processing, but all the service centers were doing it as a courtesy for the H4 to be approved along with the H1Bs. So in that case, there was a very quick, and most of the reason for the H1B applicants to go for a premium processing. So that was stopped because of the biometric requirement that happened with the H4. So now after this, whatever the pending that has happened till now for the last 2 years, 3 years, then once USCIS clears it up, there was no guidance that has been issued, but we are more positive that they are going to come up with the same that has been followed up earlier when they were processing the H1B for the premium processing. The H4 as well can be processed so that it enables the H4 and the H4 EAD to be processed very quicker than the delay of this 1 year. And it's almost like 13 to 14 months of the average timeline, irrespective of the service center we are looking at in the processing of the H4 and the H4 EADs.
Okay, got it. Got it. We have another question from Mr. Dinesh. His I-140 is approved and he's currently staying in Canada and with the same employer, it seems. His question is, will my H1B will always be out of cap? Now there are many, well, his H1B will always be out of cap.
Yeah, because he has an I-140 approved, and even though irrespective of he being with the same employer, he always comes under the H1B cap. Means as long as there is any other employer who's willing to file for the H1B with a valid offer to start his employment, he can always be eligible for a 3 years time period, and then he can file for the H1B.
Okay, so that's good. And on the same note, I have another question from another guy from Canada. Seems like his EB3 or he's in Canada, and he is his I-140 is approved, and his EB3 current dates are current, but his H1B is approved with another employer. If he comes back, can he file a 485 immediately?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Raj, quickly?
So he is in Canada, but his H1B is approved out of cap with another employer.
Right.
But his EB3 dates are current. But when he travels back to the country with the new H1B, would he be able to file for the 485 immediately?
Yeah, immediately he can file for the 485, but only I'm just assuming that is not the same H1B employer who filed for the permanent I-140. So in that case, the employer who filed the permanent I-140 has to have a valid offer for him to make him eligible for him to apply for the 485, because the 485J, which was recently included, has to have a valid offer from the employer who filed the permanent I-140. So not the H1B employer, but the other employer has to agree on to provide the 485J, enabling him to file the 485 as soon as he enters into United States.
Okay, gotcha. So going back to the list of questions. Okay, going back to the list of questions, 1 second. Hey, Raghu, I think you have some questions. Can you take it up? Raghu?
Sure, Raj. Thanks, first of all, for taking this time to answer our questions. I have 4 questions which I submitted earlier to the event registration. Couple of them are related to H4 and H4 job change, and then one EAD and medicals for the 485. I'll go to the first question. So I submitted my H1B application in September 2020. Along with that, I also submitted H4 application. My H1 got approved within 20 days. However, H4 is still pending because of the biometrics. We gave the biometrics in the month of April 2021. However, we are still waiting for H4 approval. Is it okay to wait beyond 240 days? Because I believe there was some rule or guidance around how long you can wait after your application has been submitted to USCIS.
Okay, let me address this. There's no 240 rule for the H4. So it's only the H1B. Based on the receipt notice, if you're working, there is a limit of 240 days if it's with the same employer that they have filed for the extension. So there's no concern about the 240 days on the H4. But based on the expired H4 EAD, you cannot, she cannot work. And then, so depending on the timeline of the service center and other, this one, Drago, I would ask you to send an email. Definitely we will just along with the receipt number for the filing. We can quickly try to see that where we stand, or comparatively our office, where whatever has been filed for, what is that, and everything. But I would say just to wait for it, and you don't have to worry about the 240 days. And there was also with the recent last month a memo that has been issued. If the client, if she had been working for based on the EAD, and then also if she cannot drive because the driver's license cannot be renewed, and all those criteria can be an eligible criteria for the expedited request that can happen with the H4 EAD. So I would ask you to explore a little more options towards that, but you can send in, I think we are just to have few, like a very, I see that there were multiple questions. I think Raj, we are not addressing it, right? Whatever the received questions. So probably we can quick move forward so that we can later on address any specific situations.
Okay. The second question I have is I submitted the 485 adjustment of status from your office around October 2020.
Okay.
But I could not, due to the time constraint, I could not provide the medicals. So you're bringing up that point earlier. We can do interfiling. However, my final action dates are not yet current. My priority date is November 2013. So do we need to wait till the dates become current, or can we submit the
November 2013, definitely we are anticipating it's going to be quickly moving forward in the coming months, even if not by August, definitely by September. But again, as it's November and now we are in January, so I would say at least wait for a month. The reason is that there is only 60 days validity on the medical that will be, even though you submit as an interfiling, if USCIS do not consider it as a proper submission, then again, they might ask you to come back and do it. Again, you have to go for the doctor and other things. So I would say just we can wait for a month before we, you go for an interfiling.
Sure. And one question about the EAD. So along with the 485 application, I also submitted 765 and 131. But however, due to again the biometrics, it got delayed, and we gave the biometrics along with H4 on April 26th. We haven't received the EAD, but however, there are potential employers we expecting some jobs. However, they're backing out because of the non-availability of the EAD. So, is there a possibility we can expedite or submit a request to USCIS to expedite that 765 application?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's worth to give a try to them, call them up and tell them that, you have a very valid offer, and then probably even they might send in, a request for you, even though you don't, whether is there a valid offer? Because, with multiple requests, sometimes that's what, and we don't encourage anyone to go for an expedite request just because they want to have all these documents in hand. There is a lot more of anxious thoughts and anxiety involved, and they just kind of feel that, can I just get it expedited with just not with a very valid reason, because that is not the right, that's an abuse of the process, right? So we don't, but again, if there is a very valid offer and there is, because of the EAD not approved, you're not able to join or anything, definitely you can call them and do that. And definitely, that is something they will be validating that.
Okay. So one last question about me. So I'm currently on H1B. My 485 is still in process. I have not received the EAD or the 130 advance for all documents. However, is there any effect on if I switch? Is there any effect on my current application or 485 application if I move to a new employer? I'm currently on H1B.
Definitely, like with November 2013, I know, it seems to be a long period that you had been waiting and everything. But at this time, if you ask my honest answer for that question, just wait. You had been waiting for so long. I know, you're eligible being the 180 days after the 485 is crossed and everything. But this time, and then again with the new employer, you'll be submitting another 485J and everything. You're very close. And so I would say just to hold on to it, even whatever the offer is, you can hold on for a while. And then before you move forward, just get your green card, and then you can just, think about it, the possibilities of just moving forward.
Sure, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Raghu. Thank you. So we'll cover some of the questions from the questionnaire list. This is from Piyush Patel. His question is: it seems his 485J got approved and date will be current from July. How soon final green card can be approved based on the current situation and timeline?
I'm sorry, what's that, Raj? Can you repeat the question?
His 485J got approved and the date will be current from July. So how soon the final green card can get approved based on the current situation and the timelines?
I'm not sure what does he mean by 485J got approved, actually. Maybe he's talking about it doesn't have anything to do with the 485 approval. So I'm a little confused with this question, like what he really means by that. Maybe he's submitted a 485J with a new employer and then accepted by USCIS. There is no approval for a 485J as such. It's all comes as a 485 approval, which is the final green card or the permanent resident card, actually. Maybe you can send an email to us and I can clarify it later.
Okay, sure. I noted that. So next one is from Mr. Aravind. It seems like he got the priority date of August 2012 in EB2 with the previous employer, and the current employer has already filed a EB2 a couple of weeks back. Now the EB3 date has become current. So can I file my I-140 and 485 currently in July? So should I do my I-140 in premium? So my I-140 so basically he's asking, he got a new employer, basically he filed an EB2 a few weeks back, but he would like to do an EB3 downgrade and file a concurrent I-140 and 485 simultaneously.
Yeah, I think he's not talking, he's asking, based on the new approval with a perm approval with a new employer, he can directly, I think that's the question is also Raj, actually. So he can directly, it's not a downgrade, he can directly file an EB3, which is going to make him current with the final action dates itself. So making him eligible for the 485 to be filed based on the new perm approval. He got it with the new employer. Yeah, definitely. And then it's worth for him to go and file it under the premium processing directly, because that for other cases, when they do the downgrade, we have the challenge of when we upgrade it for a premium processing, or because they have to, USCIS has to get the labor from the Department of Labor, they are returning back some of the cases, but for him, it's a direct based on a perm. So definitely he can go directly with the premium processing at the time of filing. And even he can file the 485 itself concurrently along with the I-140 and the premium.
Okay, got it. So I will respond back to Arvind with that. And then if he has any more questions, I can reach out to us. And the next question is
one quick update. I will just, as we are also closer to time and everything, Raj. So one thing we are observing, seeing it is like we addressed an RFE for a 485, there was an S to one of the questions on the legal questions at the end of the form, if others are aware of it or anything. So they asked us what is that about and everything, why was it marked as S, and an explanation that has to be given. So for that 485, we prepared a very good affidavit supported from the applicant, and we saw that within a week, very close to a week, the approval of the 485 itself. It was very, very surprising. It was submitted on a Monday. I think by Friday or something, he got the 485 approved. So they are quick, very quick in approving, and the processing is getting very quick, faster. So is there, I always, as I had been insisting, if there is any RFE that has been received, try to submit it as soon as possible so that they can move forward with the final action dates, and then they can approve the filing itself.
Got it. Sweta is here. So Sweta has another question. Sweta should try to ask you a question. So we'll try to wrap it up another 5-10 minutes. So we're almost touching the time. And this is a 1 hour talk show. So we're almost touching. So Sweta, please.
Yeah. My husband's final action date is current, and I got the advanced payroll and EAD on my I-140. So can I travel on my advanced payroll?
So when it comes to an husband and wife, you have I'm assuming you have a different I-140 and your husband is a different I-140. And so your husband also filed a 485. You both filed a 485 along with your I-140. Is it right?
Yes, and I also filed as a dependent on my husband's I-140.
I understand, but 485, who filed the 485? You, or is it based on your I-140, your husband and you filed it, or?
Both of them filed. Both of us filed for 485.
Oh, you filed your separate 485 and your husband filed his own separate 485?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Actually, that's not needed because, that's completely not needed anyway. That's a different story. Okay, so whatever reason you had it, that's fine. So now your question is like your husband's I-140, and so did he get his advance parole, you mean to say?
So he did not get, his I-140 is cleared and his final action date is current. I got my advanced payroll long back, and can I travel to India on advanced payroll?
Okay, what is your final action date, sir?
November 2014.
Oh, you're far away. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. See, it really doesn't matter as a family, filing a different 485. It's at one point or other, USCIS is going to be merging all the, 4 together, depending on whose final action date is moving forward further quicker. Assuming that it's your husband's, then in that case also, it'll be under this one. So you're fine, even though if you have to, you can wait for the green card to be approved, depending on the final action date of your husband. If it can be approved before the September 2021, if not, and if it's an emergency, you have to travel on the advance parole on yours. Yes, you can do it as well, as long as it's approved and it's valid, you can travel on your advance parole and be back. But again, it's not, it's still, I'm thinking through the question why, you both have to file at 2 different 485, but that's, considering the time, I'll leave it as such.
Okay. Is travel ban applicable for advanced payroll?
No, you can travel back on it's not, you can travel back.
Okay. Okay. Some travel agents told I cannot enter into US on advanced payroll.
I'm not sure, but you can travel back, Ashweta, and then, yeah, we'll talk about it later on, what it is about, but again, you can.
Okay,
yeah,
but
thanks, Shweta. So going to the next question, so from Piyush. Piyush?
Hey, hi, Mary, this is Piyush.
Yeah, hi, Piyush.
Hey, I have a question, Mary, that recently I got my 485J approval, and after that I got a letter from USCIS Raleigh field office that my 485 is transferring back to National Benefit Center due to lack of visa number, because my date is going to be current from July 1st. So what does it mean? Like, is my file ready for issuing of the green card, or any kind of other process is
No, I
pending from
won't.
the US?
Okay, I got your question. All right, yeah, Piyush. Okay, so it doesn't really, it doesn't really say that you're completely ready for the filings. We also received some of them getting the NVC saying that as we don't have a visa number available, so your file has been transferred. It means like, you don't have that, your final action dates are not current. So that is the only criteria that means on that letter. So you have to wait for your final action dates to move forward. And then, assuming that interview is waived, then you will be getting your approval. So it is like nothing to be very concerned about, or nothing to be saying that you're all set for your approval. So I would say just a notice saying that your visas are not available, visa numbers are not available for your green card to be approved. And so you have to wait for the final action dates to be current. And also on top, there is another updates as we earlier discussed as well. We see that in most of the 485s, when we did an interfiling or any other reason, we see that an update on the USCIS website saying name changes updated or name corrections updated. So it was a concern. I didn't do any name corrections or request a name correction. So I think one of the criteria which we see the trend is like when USCIS is working on the files and the final action date is also current, and so probably the biometric was received, the report of the biometric has been received. So they are just updating the USCIS portal with that of the name change updated or something related to that.
Okay, thank you, Mary.
Okay, so would like to quickly wrap up. So there are, we'll take two more questions from the list, Mary, and then I think we pretty much covered most of it.
So that's one more thing you can say. I know like a lot more of questions was received, and they were very prompt to send it to us with the questionnaire. So definitely we won't disappoint them, with the timeline and everything. We can definitely, just address two questions, but we will take just to give us few days. And after that, Tuesday, after the new H1B has been completed, we will address each question as much as possible. If it's a very detailed question, we'll call them up, or we will address it as an email. So they don't have to be disappointed that we didn't address those questions. We'll definitely do our best towards it.
We covered most of the questions in the questionnaire except two, except 3 or 4 topics, because some of them are kind of relevant. Some of them are relevant to the 485s and 693 documents, the medical documents. I think we will detail them in terms of their, their case, their specific case all about. So one of the question is about data filing actions under EB category. It is very confusing to understand the terms when UCIS says that we should use FAD at earliest in June bulletin. So his basic, this name is Keshav, I think. His basic question is, I think we need to use 485 to getting together, to getting the green card. And data filing, basically he's asking the clarification of final action date versus data filing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. As quick, I know I saw that question as well. And he also mentioned that explain it to me in a layman term rather than again going back and talking about what USCIS states. That's a very good, thought on that to put it in. So that's a very good question. So what is about the data filing and the final action dates? Quickly, as simple as possible, I'll try to say that in 2015, that's when during the, earlier President Obama's rule. So they differentiated between the data filing and the final action dates. The purpose of it is like, as said in the layman terms, is like, USCI has opened up 2021 with the data filing. The dates were so much advanced for the EB3, which was till January of 2015. So what they did was they collected all the documents, whoever becomes eligible within the data filings. So all the filings that happened for the dates, which is within the data filing, doesn't mean they are their green cards are going to be approved within the October bulletin or the November bulletin, because it was valid till October, November, and December. So they collected all those documents as a prior, preparation for them to be prepared for the green card approval of the 485 approval. So they were collecting all those documents. They will make them eligible for them to for the biometrics and other criteria, as well as they become eligible for the 485 and EADs and advanced parole. So unless the final action dates for you to become current, say you filed your data filing is January 2015. So what happens is, when do you become eligible to get your approval of the green card depends on the final action dates. So the final action dates, unless you have your final action date as January 2015, you cannot become eligible to get your approval of the green card. But based on the data filing, when USCIS accepts the data filing and you filed your 485 based on that, not every month USCIS accepts it. The reason is, they don't want to accumulate more and more documents and spend the time when the visa numbers are not going to be eligible to be approved for. So they just have a timeline and they don't accept all the months. That's what the biggest question now was, whether USCIS is going to accept the data filing. No, I don't expect this till the October 2022 visas. That's when probably USCIS will start accepting with the data filing as well. But prior to that, it's not going to happen. So that so one thing you can see that is definitely not going to be there. And so the final action date has to be current to have your visa approved for the 485. That is the minimum criteria that is going to be there. And if he needs a very further clarification, I'll definitely take time to explain it to him in very detail, which I love to do that. And so I'll be happy to do that further on as well.
Great. So we'll take two more questions and I think we'll wrap up for the session. So this is from Sai. His question is, we submitted the medicals along with 485. However, the civil surgeon did not perform a new TB test. We carried my old medical 693 reports which we did in 2015. So the doctor opened those and used for the following the new 693. So his question is, I have 485 interviews scheduled in mid of July, and July at my nearest field office. So does this mean that they reviewed the old documents, or is it okay with them? Are they okay with them?
Yeah, okay. So he has an interview that he has to go to the field office in July 15th. So what I would say, July of 2021, right? He's going for his interview schedule. Okay, so I would, see if they want a new medical to be done, USCIS, even though they say the validity in between, they said it is for 1 year and then they said 2 years. So in some cases like this, if you look into it, it's already 6 years. But one thing is what you have to follow up is you have to see that the notice that has been issued with the interview, it will clearly say what are the documents that is needed when you go for the interview. In some cases, they will ask you to bring the original of the birth certificates. In minimum cases, even in your tax returns, or in some cases, the H-1B's approvals, and some of them, the redoing of the medical. If the medical is not requested, I wouldn't ask you to go for a new medical, but again, you can always call them or try to send an email. They are very responsible in answering it, even though not on the same day or anything, so that you can ask them, my medical was submitted in 2015, but can I redo my medical now and then bring it with me? That can be answered with them, but I would definitely rely on the notice that was received.
Okay. Hope, Sai, I think you got the answer back on this. If you have any more further questions, please feel free to reach out to Mary at mkimmigrationlaw.com. So I just want to reiterate, Mary and her team was working pretty hard to stay connected with the community and help the community to pass on the information. So please do subscribe their Facebook and Facebook and YouTube channels. So they'll be, and keep visiting their subscribe to their newsletters also. So they'll be keep updating the blogs, Facebooks, and YouTubes with more relevant questions on keep community up to date with the visa bulletins and that's things that are happening. We'll take the last question here, Mary. This is from Krishna. In applying for the 485, it seems he doesn't have all the previous I-94 documents. what will that be a problem? If yes, would there be any solution to obtaining the I-94 documents?
So you can always request, I think there is some history of documents going into the online. They will be able to collect it as long as the records are being maintained electronically by USCIS. And even if he's not able to find it out, the other ways to file for the FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, as soon as possible, and just file it online. So it's very nowadays it's coming up very quick. Actually, we submitted for many people, and we got it in 4 to 5 weeks timeline on that actually. So he can definitely request it so that he can have all the documents in place when he is applying for the 485.
Okay, great. I think we kind of addressed most of the questions. We had almost like Facebook, YouTube, and chat, and the radio all together. We had around 85 plus folks were attending the call. I'm sure you would have got the required information, and feel free to reach out to Mary at mkimmigrationlaw.com, and please do visit their website. Please do post your questions, comments, anything, anytime on their Facebook or YouTube, or drop them an email, and they are at your service. So it's all, at the end of the day, it is all for the betterment of the community, and particularly immigration. You cannot just take a chance. It is always good to take superiors, advice. So I know there are blogs, a lot of question and answers, which are available. But before you take any action, it is good to go through the blogs. It is good to go through the friends and socializing. But taking an expert help, expert advice in your scenario is definitely going to be helpful. So don't hesitate. And Mary and whole MK Immigration Attorney Office is at your service. So try to leverage the service and try to ask them questions. And if you guys have any questions. And with that said, we are concluding the session today. And last but not the least, so this whole episode will be broadcasted as a podcast in our Swara Media app, Swara Radio app. If you are driving or if anything, so you can just keep listening to it, and you can read kind of a magazine. So this month, first magazine, we are publishing some of the question and answers in our magazine, so you can read that as well. So stay connected to Swara, and like Facebook, keep liking and subscribing to MK Immigration Attorney. So Mary, would you want to add any last final comments?
Nothing, Raj. Thank you. I really enjoy, and it's an opportunity for me always. Immigration never kind of tires me or anything, and I know it's good to connect with you, and it was a very good session. I enjoyed every question of it, and as said, as a team, we are very, very proactive, diligent, very detailed in whatever the documents and submissions and the help, whatever we could do towards each one of them, because as an immigrant myself, I'm very passionate about the work I do. And so any point of time, any help needed, just pass it on as a referral to all your other friends and families, and that will help us as well. And if you have some time, just have a quick review of our website and anywhere you can be of. And thank you. And again, thank you for the opportunity. And I really enjoyed this session as well. Thank you, Raj. Thank you.
Thank you. This is your show, and I'm your guest today.
Right. Thank you. All right.
So thank you all the participants who posted their question. I'm sure this is very informative, and we'll be doing more sessions like this in the coming days. And again, we don't have to wait for visa bulletin to come in. You can shoot your questions. You can reach out to us at any point of the time. We're happy to help you. So this media is for you. It's for you, and we are here to impact the communities. So stay connected. Download our Swara app and keep liking Mary's Facebook and YouTube channels, and keep listening to her website. With that said, thank you, Shubharatri, and good night all, and have a good week. I'm sure tomorrow, Monday is almost there, so get ready for the next week. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.